These are the Miami Hurricanes players who need to step up most against the Duke Blue Devils.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We made it. And it's almost game day. Tomorrow is game day. I am Alex Dono, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. On this loaded episode of Locked On Canes, we will give you our predictions for Saturday. Fifth-ranked Miami hosting Duke at high noon tomorrow at Hard Rock Stadium. We'll talk about Miami's keys to victory. We'll start with who needs to step up most. I'll tell you who needs to step up. Bruce Warner, the truth teller, because you were...
Right.
You were on the PUP list, physically unable to perform on Tuesday. You were too sick. Yep. You're back, so you need to bring your A game today, Bruce.
I still have a cold. I didn't sleep last night, not for 1 second. I was up and I was watching TV and I was watching Godzilla movies. I thought maybe that would put me to sleep, but it didn't. So here I am with no sleep. Again, it's the second time this week. So, but I'm okay. I'm ready. All right, what do you got? Let's go.
Well, we're happy we're here. And okay, so Bruce, let's talk about going up against, we would agree that what makes Duke the most dangerous is their defense, specifically their ability to blitz, to put on pressure. And so, like, for me, I look at a player who I think might be the most outside of Cam Ward, of course, and we'll talk about him, but he's so good. It's so obvious that, he's the straw that stirs the drink. But I look at Miami's center, Zach Carpenter, who's got an incredibly important job this week going up against those disguised blitzes that Manny Diaz is going to run. He loves to pressure quarterbacks. I had a conversation, Bruce, earlier this week with former Miami offensive lineman Casey McDermott, who, used to go up against Manny Diaz's defenses in practice. And I asked him, how do you prepare for Duke and Diaz? And he said, first of all, you need to study a lot of blitz tape this week. I'm sure Miami's done that. And they need to be communicating on that offensive line. And in his words, it starts with the center. So it starts with Zach Carpenter this week, who's been very good this year, let me add. But he's got a very important job on Saturday.
I think they all do. I think all five of them and the running back who's ever in the game at the time, because they're come off the edges too. They're not just stunting with the four. They're coming from the safeties, the linebackers, corner blitzes. But as I said last week, and I'm going to say it again, Dawson better be on his A game, not me, because they better dial up some screens and things like that when the pressure's coming, so he doesn't take these 10, 15-yard sacks. They've got to do something quickly. He can't stand in the pocket all day long. I like to see him roll out a little bit. I like to see them put a guy in motion or two, quick slants, get the tight ends involved early in the game, and maybe he's going to start thinking, maybe I better not blitz because I'm getting burned. And I look at this game like last week's game, a really good defense and not much of an offense, just like Florida State. But I do expect this. I watched the post-game presser with Cam, and I watched the one he did on Monday. And both days, he just didn't want to talk to the reporters. He's just still angry at himself, because on the one he did after the game the other day, he said, we don't need 3 field goals. We need touchdowns. And I know. And he threw his machine that he has.
The iPad, yeah.
Yeah, so I just think that he's going to come out with a sense of purpose. I don't think he likes the fact he could say what he wants, that he got dropped down to 4th in the Heisman race. And so I think this is going to be a big game for him, and he's going to light them up.
I think he's going to bounce back in a big way. And I think it's, but in order to make that happen, Bruce, because Duke has a very good passing defense, 12th ranked team against the pass in the country. They've got the 4th highest coverage grades in the country, according to Pro Football Focus. So but obviously they haven't gone up against Cam Ward, and they haven't gone up against Miami's receivers. But at the same time, in order to get that element of Miami's offense unlocked. This is another game where, like Miami's done so well the last couple weeks, you've got to be able to run the football. And again, Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher and A.J. Allen, they've got a really important job this week because, Bruce, where Duke has been very good against the pass, they're below average against the run, 88th in the country against the run. So Miami can open up their passing game with another dominant running game. 219 yards against Louisville, 230 yards against Florida State. Let's break 200 again against Duke.
Well, I think it's probably going to happen, but I still expect us to throw the ball. This is going to be similar to last week, I think. Maybe even similar to the Gators because their offense wasn't so good. Now it's a little better now, but maybe like that too. Pretty good aggressive defense. But the other teams we faced had good offenses. Cal went up and down the field. Tech pretty much went up and down the field. And definitely Louisville went up and down the field. Yeah. So I hope we learned something from the Florida State game. They played much better defensively. And one of the things I noticed, and I mentioned before, maybe you guys noticed it, the D-line is getting in the backfield, but they're not getting as many sacks. They're missing tackles. You see these guys, they're reaching out, and the quarterback just gets out of the way. They're surrounding these guys, and they're still not bringing them down. I'm shocked. That needs to pick up a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Tyler Barron, who's been right near I think he's second in the country and in quarterback hurries this season. Obviously Ruben Bain missed a lot of games, so his total stats are a little bit behind, but he's been among the most effective the last couple weeks since he's been back. They've got a really important job because, Malik Murphy, he can move in the pocket. He doesn't run a whole lot, but they really need to put him under constant pressure. And, Bruce, Duke's passing game has come a little bit more alive in recent weeks. They've got some dangerous receivers, Jordan Moore, Eli Pankol. So this is, and, Miami's defensive backs, it's hard to really grade them from last week because they were going up against one of the worst offenses in America. But two things can be true at once. You can say Miami's DBs played well, which they did, but they also weren't going up against a great opponent. So we need to see, more, from guys like Mish Powell and Jaden Harris and, Daryl Porter, who's doing well again this year. He's got good stats this season. OJ Frederic has been playing very well as a true freshman. We need those guys to continue some of that momentum that they started last week.
Yeah, you talked about, you want to know who's going to step up, who needs to step up. And again, I said this entire offensive line, I think the whole damn team's got to step up. They really do.
Yeah.
But I still would like to see a punt return or a kickoff return to go someplace other than, especially on the punt returns. I'd like to see somebody break it, get past midfield. That would be nice, But right now, it's not happening. Restrepo got blanketed last week. Do you think they do the same thing? I would think they'll do the same thing.
I think they can try. I mean, I don't necessarily see him getting shut down 2 weeks in a row. I think that was that was maybe something that was unique to that Florida State game. But I'm sure Duke is going to watch some of what Florida State. Florida, they gave up 36 points, so it's not like they shut Miami's offense down. Right. But whatever they had success in, Duke is going to try to duplicate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I just don't know what's the most points Duke scored in one season. They had a lot of points so far this year, and against some crummy teams.
I will tell you in 1 second. The most point that they've 45-17 against Middle Tennessee. 45 is the most points they've scored. Other than that, they've not been in the 30s. They scored 27 against SMU, 23 against FSU, 14 against Georgia Tech, 21 against North Carolina. It's a lot.
They had six takeaways last week.
Six takeaways, and they still lost.
They still lost. So this reminds me of last week. I think we're going to win. I think we're going to beat the spread. I know a lot of people don't think so. I know you're saying it's going to be within. I just have confidence in the offense, and I think they're angry. They left some points on the field, and the defense is getting better. I think we're going to win maybe 44-20, something like that. I just don't see them scoring more than 23 points. Maybe 42-20. What's the spread? 20?
20 and a half.
That's tough. That's tough. Well, I'll let you know after the game tomorrow.
Well, you got to let me know. We'll get more in depth on our predictions a little bit later on. Let's talk about keys to victory. when we come back, because like Bruce mentioned, Duke does force a lot of takeaways. That's going to be one of the things we discuss. And my friends, it's a Friday. It's a Truth Teller Friday. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. You want to keep it locked. Our friends at 5 Hour Energy, they know that being a passionate football fan, it isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, and an agonizing second overtime. I hope this one doesn't go to overtime. But this is why 5 Hour Energy has created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like us, the fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave. We see you. You know what else has given me a bit of fan fuel this week? Hearing Cam Ward talk about, we need to score more touchdowns, not field goals. Seeing Ward and company lead those big comebacks earlier on the season. Seeing Miami beat Florida State. Folks, 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing out your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy shot is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com and shipped nationwide. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We got the Truth Teller with us on a special Friday edition of Truth Teller Tuesday, if that makes any sense. So, Bruce,
none of the things I do make sense. By the way, before we go, because I'll forget what I've been doing lately. So, last week, Caesar was in town. He stayed with me and blah, blah, blah. So I got a couple of names and phone numbers that I'm going to try to get for the next couple of weeks. One, I talked to Clinton Portis, and he's going to do it. And two, Mark and I went to see Edison play. And so we were talking to Luther Campbell. So Uncle Luke's going to do it because he's my friend. I've known him from way back. So I've called them both, and I'll try to get him in the next week or two or three.
Well, we got it, and I love that, and we got to try to see if Clinton can maybe be in the same room with Camden Portis, his son who just committed to Miami. I'd love to talk to both of them.
Well, I'm going to ask him.
I know you will. I know you will.
I'll ask him, of course. Yeah, that was some party last Friday night. I still haven't regained my sleep.
I talked to you the morning after that party. You were so drained on Saturday morning last week.
Oh my God. Yeah,
I think that's why you got sick.
I used to live in North Miami. Now I'm in Parkland, so that's way away from Brickell.
Oh yeah,
way away. So anyway, all right, what's going on? Who the Canes playing tomorrow?
The Duke Blue Devils. And okay, well, what are your thoughts on? But before we get into the keys to the game, any feelings on Manny Diaz returning? Because honestly, and I talked about this with JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils. I like Manny. I know that there's some bitterness. There's even some people out there who seem to like Manny better than Mario for weird, deranged people. But I think at the time when Manny, great defensive coordinator here, I think when he was named head coach should never have happened at that time. I think he needed more seasoning. He was about to be the head coach at Temple. I think, that job would have been better for him at that time. This is Miami being your first ever head coaching gig. That's just not really how that trajectory is supposed to work. I think he's in a better place now, and it's a better time for him being head coach at Duke.
And
I've got no bitterness whatsoever.
A lot less pressure.
Yeah.
A lot less pressure.
Yeah, he's not the Duke basketball coach. He's the Duke football coach. Yeah.
They're still in somewhat of a rebuild. Meanwhile, their ex-coach at A&M, wow.
Oh, yeah.
They're playing great.
Yeah.
They're playing great. Yeah. And we beat them last year, right? Yeah, we beat them pretty badly.
We did, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, keys to the game. Look, it's almost the same now. No turnovers or limit the turnovers or the giveaways. That's one. Two, you got to be physical. I know that the emphasis for Mario this week is physical. Be violent. That's the word he uses all the time, violent. And the running game last week showed we could be violent. And look, he had some busted plays last week. They got some good yardage out of him. I think he had a little trouble in the pocket. I don't know. He threw the ball high a few times, a couple of low passes. He wasn't real sharp. And I guess maybe he was hearing footsteps. I don't know. but there has to be plays that he can get the snap. If he knows that blitz is coming or he believes it's coming, he's got to get rid of the ball quickly. And not everything has to be a bomb. You could pass the ball to 3 yards and they could run for 18 or 20. That's what I expect, because if they're coming after him, there's got to be mismatches down the field. There has to be.
Yeah.
The numbers don't add up for Duke.
For me, like you gotta keep the turnovers down in this game, which Miami has done the last couple of weeks. They didn't have any turnovers against Florida State. I think they just had one against Louisville. So keep the turnovers down, because Duke has forced more turnovers now than anyone in the country. Now you could say, hey, they forced 6 last week and they still lost.
Yep, we are saying
it. Which is true, but I mean, that was the first time in, I think, 15 years a team went +6 in the turnover margin and lost a game. So we can't count on that happening again. Do not turn the football over this week, because that's something that Duke really excels at. I think being able to, we talked about this when we talked about the most important players, set the tone again on the ground. It's not, I expect Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo to bounce back big time. X is not going to be held to 4 catches for 24 yards again. Right. That's not going to happen. Ward is not going to be held to 0 touchdown passes again. That's not going to happen. But I think in order for the passing game to bounce back, you've got to be able to run the football.
Well, unlike our QB from last season, who he didn't care if Restrepo was open or not. He's just throwing him the ball, and it cost us how many times? Cam Ward didn't do that last week. He went to the other guys, and that's what he should be doing. But I still want the backs to get involved in the passing game, because that's what Mario kept on saying. And yes, I know that Martinez has, but a lot of his has come on busted plays, broken plays. And he's out there and he gets the little shuffle pass, the one that was in front. And then, he's out there and you can see Ward taking off before he gets to the line. He hits somebody. There's been a lot of those, but I haven't seen any screens, toss sweeps, things that can get us to the outside. That'll get those backers and the D-line away from that little box up front. That's what I'm hoping happens, And I would like to see a kick return for a touchdown. Do I think it's going to come from Ray? Probably not. But I like to see Chris Johnson get his hands on the ball a few times. Mm-hmm. That's for sure.
I think my last big key for this game, Bruce, is red zone defense. Because if you can keep Duke out of the end zone and force them to field goal tries, their kicking unit, their special teams, a hot mess. Duke. Isn't
that why he went for 2 last week?
That's why he went for 2.
A chip shot field goal. He missed a chippy to could have won the game.
Yeah, he missed a chip. They had 3 field goals missed. One of them was blocked, and it was actually blocked by former Hurricane Jafari Harvey, who's playing now for SMU. So, but they had 3 missed field goals that were all makeable distance, which is why, like you said, when they were in the first overtime, they went for 2 in the win instead of going for the field goal, because they had no faith in their kicking game. So guess what? If Miami, I would prefer Miami's defense to force 3 and outs all game. But if you're going to bend, do not break. You get them into the red zone, hold them to field goal tries, and something terrible is probably going to happen there. So keep them out of the end zone, and that's a team that's going to have a
stat on how many turnovers Duke has this year. How many times have they turned the ball over? Do you know?
I
know you're the stat master here. What do you have?
Yeah, hold on. I don't. Let me try to. I will try to amend that in, because it's going to take me a second to look that up, but. Yeah, I mean, Miami should be win the turnover margin, Bruce. Win the turnover margin, go. If it's 0-0 turnover margin, Miami probably wins. If you win +2 in the turnover margin, it's probably a blowout.
So what's our lowest offensive point total this year? 36?
Yeah, I believe that was it.
Well, they're not scoring 36 points. So we have a bad offensive game that we're still going to beat them. Everybody talks points, but like I've told everybody, I don't gamble. I wouldn't know who to call if there was $1 million on the table. I'm not into that stuff, but I know I believe Miami's going to win. And
by the way, I got the turnover number, Bruce. I found it. Duke is actually, they've only turned it over 9 times this year, which is not a lot through 8 games. So they've
won a game maybe. Okay, all right. Yeah. So they're not a turnover machine. So all right, we got to play good defense, and be physical with those guys. Be physical. Yeah. And get after their quarterback, because if he's not a runner,
Yeah.
I've seen his footwork. It's not so great as opposed to Cam Ward. It looks like he's got 360-degree eyes. He's got he knows what's behind him. He's unbelievable. And and this kid's young. He hasn't experienced. What's the best team they've played so far, Duke? Was SMU the best team?
It definitely wasn't FSU. Yeah, SMU. SMU's the only ranked team that Duke has played so far. And to be fair, like they probably should have won that game, Bruce. I mean,
they should have won the game. That's why I don't think they're that good. It's smoke and mirrors for Manny Diaz so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad guy. He's a nice guy. I like him.
Oh, yeah, great guy.
I'm glad he's not the coach anymore.
Same. I mean, good.
I'm not bashing him. He just wasn't ready. I have nothing against him.
Yeah.
The question really is, does anybody really know? And I don't know if before they hired Diaz, which doesn't sound like they even asked Mario if he was interested. I don't know if he was ready to be coming over here 3 years ago. I don't see it. I think 6-7 years ago when did he get fired? In 17, Rick left, right? Or was it 18?
No, it was it was after the 18 season.
All right, so Manny got the job, and he shouldn't have been here. He should have been at Temple, like you said.
Yeah.
But would Mario have taken the job when he got the offer? Probably not.
Well, Miami would have had to have their house in order the way that they had it in order 3 years later, which is when they were willing to really invest in football, and Joe Echeverria, who's now the university president, he was instrumental at that time a couple of years ago to get Mario to come here. He wouldn't have been involved in that process 3 years prior. So I don't think it would have happened. Now, at the same time, at the time when Miami ultimately hired Manny Diaz, they really should have done a coaching search. Instead, they had to pay $4 million to Temple to buy out their own defensive coordinator, which was not.
That's great business. Great business.
No, it's not great business.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, look, that's past. We are now.
Yeah.
We're 8-0. I have nothing to complain about. We're 8-0.
No.
I mean, you can look at individually things that were bad. Those games, those 3 games where it was nail biters.
Yeah.
But we beat our rival. We're sitting in line now. If we win the rest of the games, I'm pretty sure we're getting into the ACC title game. I like to think. I know that Clemson plays Pitt, I think, and Louisville somewhere before the year is over.
Yes.
So if they play Pitt, somebody's going to lose. One of those teams is going to be out as long as Miami keeps winning.
And Pitt plays SMU this weekend, so that's going to be
down in Texas, I believe.
Yeah.
But I'd rather see SMU get it than these other teams because at least they got half of our football team is over there.
Yeah, right. At least we like all those guys, by the way.
And the coach, we all like the coach.
Yeah, Lashley too. We like him. Yeah.
So I have no problem with that. When I'm watching them play, I kind of feel like I'm rooting for Miami.
Yeah. Well, when we come back, I want to double down on our predictions for Miami versus Duke. Your number 5 Hurricanes. They'll be wearing all green, by the way. They announced that earlier this week, and I think it's Military Appreciation Week, I was told. So that's kind of cool that they sort of coordinated that. So we're gonna get Miami versus Duke predictions. Plus, when you're successful, you may lose coordinators, unfortunately, and one of Miami's coordinators is being linked to a head coaching job. You want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. I'm certainly not done with FanDuel. I mean, we mentioned Miami Hurricanes are 20.5-point favorites, 20.5-point favorites against Duke this Saturday. So if you think Miami's going to win by a blowout, you lock in minus 20.5. If you think Duke is going to cover, you lock in Duke plus 20.5. And folks, be ready for all the NFL action with America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you for making this Truth Teller Friday episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Make sure for your next listen, you check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs and I from Locked On Wolfpack. We have a lot of fun talking about all the big games and big storylines in the Atlantic Coast Conference. And, hopefully we see Miami play for that ACC championship in about a month. But we got 4 games, including Duke this Saturday before that. So Bruce, one of the and again, this is just the reality of college football. Every successful team goes through this. That when you are, especially the way Miami's offense has been successful, you're going to start to have coaches and coordinators linked to other jobs. And Shannon Dawson, reportedly, Miami's offensive coordinator, reportedly is in the mix for the Rice head coaching job, which would, be his first head coaching gig if he can get it. So I don't, I'm sure they've got a handful of candidates there, but we might lose a coordinator this offseason.
Well, he put his name in the hat.
Yeah.
And he's coming off so far a great year as the OC. Head coach, don't know. I don't know that much about him. I don't know much about Dawson. I mean, I've met him a few times, but I just don't know. If he wants to leave, he's got to go. That's all. It's great for him and his family. I'm not going to sit here and bash the guy if he leaves and say,
no, of course not. I think it'd be a great opportunity. Yep. Yeah. And also think about, you would say like coming off of this season would be a great time to parlay that success, because you can't imagine your stock is ever, as a coordinator, your stock is never going to be much higher than it is right now, where you've got the number one offense in America. Yeah. Number one offense in America, top passing offense in Power 4 football, second overall in FBS. So, you strike while the iron is hot, right?
I wouldn't blame him if he leaves. I'm not going to say anything negative. I just won't. And good for him if he gets another job. Yeah. I don't want to see Nicholson leave because he's doing pretty well. But the linebackers are surprisingly not the strength this year. It's not the strength. The Saint is inconsistent. Maui Noah is inconsistent. He's been very inconsistent all year. Most of them have been inconsistent. I think the most consistent one is Simeon Barrow. And now that Bain is back, he's there. He's still learning to get back in shape. On the defense, that's pretty much it. I think it's pretty much it. The offensive line, you can't say that many negative things. If I had to say anything, I would say that it seems like 73 is hot and cold, hot and cold, hot and cold. Cooper, he just doesn't seem, every once in a while, he seems like he disappears. So and the same thing, they move. That's why they put Rivers at the left guard spot to get some help over there. And they put in Bell, who they like. Yeah. Every once in a while I see him get beat, but he's pretty strong, big. He'll be playing there for the next 3 years.
Oh yeah, he's been, in terms of like the progress that Bell has made, like he's earned more playing time. There's no question. So all right, with all this said, what you mentioned a number earlier, do you want to double down on your prediction, your final score, and how you think the game's going to play out?
Well, as I said, probably to you off the air, I'm pretty sure that Cam Ward is very upset with his performance. He said it in 2 press conferences this week. He wasn't happy. He wasn't even that jovial. He just was just doing the press conference because he had to. I think he's going to have a better game. I think they're scoring 40 in the 40s, 42, 43, 5 touchdowns and 2 or 3 field goals, long ones, and they win the game. And I don't see Duke scoring more than 20. So I'm going to say something like 40, 42 to 20, which beats the spread for you guys out there.
Man, that's so much more fun than my prediction. I put this on record the other day, so I'll stick with it. I hope it's more like yours. I'm going 34-20 Miami. I really hope we score more than 34 points. But another thing, like if Duke is smart, they'll try to limit Miami's possessions. Like Florida State still got blown out by us, but they limited Miami's possessions. Miami only had 8 offensive.
Because they ran the clock down, and it's sad because Miami runs the clock down too. And I'm thinking, why? If we're hot, and he's in a rhythm. Keep going. Don't just come out of the huddle or take 18 seconds. A lot of times it's inside the 5 seconds, and they're hiking the ball, getting nervous. They should speed it up every once in a while. Especially when he's on target. He's on target. Look out. But what's your score? 34-20?
34-20. 34-20 is my
We
score.
get 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals, and they get 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals.
Yes.
Okay.
That was good math on you. That was quick. That was quicker than I would have gotten there.
Math, I'm good at math. I always was. Always was. So anyway, it's a noon game. We're wearing all green.
Yeah.
I hope it's a good crowd. I hope it's 55,000 people.
I hope so. And like I want, like, okay, so if you guys have to, you know, set your alarm a little earlier than you normally would on a Saturday, because I know South Floridians, a lot of you on a Friday night, you stay out late. You won't even wake up till noon on a Saturday. Maybe set your alarm for like 10 a.m. Try to get out to the game and support your team because they deserve it. We just had a sellout and a great crowd for a night game last week against Florida State. This team's 8-0. This team is ranked in the top 5. This team is on track to hopefully win the ACC for the first time since we've been in this stupid conference for 20 years. They're on track to make the college football playoff. I don't know if you saw the show I did the other day, Bruce. Miami is actually getting the highest percentage chance in the entire country to make it to the college football playoff. Let's support this team. Get out there at noon. If you have to drink some Z Biotics pre-alcohol. We have a great partnership with them. Before you go out drinking on Friday, drink your pre-alcohol. You're not going to be hungover the next day. Get out to the stadium on Saturday. Let's support the team.
Let's do it, man. I hope we beat them badly because I know after the last 2-3 weeks, Ward is down to the 4th spot now in the Heisman, which is absurd.
That's absurd. Yeah.
I mean, if we didn't have him, we'd be 0-8 or pretty close to 0-8.
Well, let's not get too crazy, but okay.
Well, I didn't say who the backup was. It might have been you. It could have been me. Who knows?
Yeah, right. Well,
I would have gotten beaten up.
I'm gonna be at the stadium. I'm gonna be there early, and I'm gonna be warmed up just in case I get some reps at quarterback this week. So thank you guys.
You know who else was at the party last Friday who I hadn't seen in years? Tommy Streeter was there. Remember Tommy Streeter?
Great. I remember him. I don't think I've seen him since he played. So I'd love to see.
He looks like
again.
He's taller. He's tall. He's tall. Anyway, all right. Have a great weekend, everybody. It's all about the you. We know that. I've gotten in 6 fights this year at a restaurant because people next to me were Florida State fans. So there was a lady, a nice lady. She's a Gator fan. She's like, "Oh, the Gators are great." I said, "You know, ma'am, nobody in this country begins with an S about the Gators." And she was offended. Her husband was offended, so much so that they moved to another spot in the bar. They moved away from me.
Oh man, see, like
I don't care if it's male, female.
No filter at all. No filter. Like you usually like the farthest I'll go because I wear the only clothes that I own are Miami gear. So I'm always repping. And when I see someone repping like Florida State, I just kind of like I look at them and they look at me and then they realize I'm 8-0 and they're not. And that's usually where it ends.
Yep.
That's usually where it ends for us. But thank you guys so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen. We'll talk to you guys again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes, part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.